To all of you, and thanks to OGTC for giving this opportunity to talk about on sustainability and the relevant topics like carbon footprint. So, he rightly said, there's a growing demand from the buyers on the environmental issues like carbon footprint and further like life cycle assessment. So OGTC really did a wonderful job by initiating the carbon footprint project and specific to the organization. And today my topic, which is specific to product, like once you did the carbon footprint of the organization, the next step is how you can show the transparency to your consumers in terms of communicating your sustainability with your products. So I'm talking about the product carbon footprint, which is a step forward once you have gone through the organization carbon footprint. So I will just go through like what SGS is doing in that front, what are the different things which are coming up in the market, or not only in India, but at the global front from different countries and different buyers, and then what SGS is doing in terms of the carbon footprint and the label that we have, and we already started this in India for last 2 years. And also with good success with some couple of textile companies as well. So this is a study done by one independent organization on the green products, like how the shoppers, they prefer the green products compared to traditional products. So shoppers prefer stores that clearly and accurately communicate their sustainability profile. So in the Western world, if a shopper is going to a store and he sees the product which has which talk about or communicate about the sustainability, and there is a traditional product which doesn't talk about anything, then they have preference for the product which has transparency, which shows the environmental indicators or environmental commitment of the brand. Sustainability scoring from independent sources experts has an influence on purchasing decisions. So if some sustainability indicator or some environmental profile is there on a product from an independent company, independent organization, that is much more value than a company doing it by itself or putting their own logo or putting their own sign. 64% of the shoppers say making environmental friendly choices make them feel good. So the Western consumers, they are quite well aware of like how to choose a product compared to a traditional product, and how it will impact the environment if he is choosing a product which is a traditional and which consumes a lot of energy, emit a lot of carbon, and so on. 54% are paying more attention to environmental impact of the product they buy. So environmental profiling, environmental indicators are becoming more and more important in all the countries, including the European countries, in US, and even the Asian countries. 72% are shopping more carefully and mindfully than they previously did. So there is a change in the shopping behavior of the consumer, what they were doing in the past and what they are currently doing. So with that, with all these awareness coming on environmental issues, the shopper also feel that they should move towards the greener product compared to what they were buying in the past, like the traditional products. If you see in different nations, the environmental initiatives being done to put up a label, a carbon label, then you can see in France there is a carbon label which is for the French, which is done by the French government. There is a German carbon label. In Sweden there is a Swedish carbon label. In Korea there is a Korean carbon label. In UK there is a carbon label by Carbon Trust. In Switzerland they have a carbon label. In Taiwan they have a carbon label. Even in China there is a carbon label. So why there are so many carbon labels? Because the governments in all these countries, they are very conscious about the carbon mapping, carbon calculation, even going to a stage of a product. Today we are talking about as an organization to get the carbon mapping done and production. Now further, the next step is the countries, the government, the companies, the corporates, they are looking forward to have products which have carbon indicators, which have environmental indicators. That is the reason these all carbon labels have come up in all these countries. But one of the things, like limitation of these carbon labels is like they are mostly restricted to their own countries. So if you are having a carbon label for one particular country, there may be possibility that it may not be applicable if you are selling to some different European country or if you are selling to US. So when we talk about carbon footprint, it shows of a product, it shows the environmental impact, what it bears, what it carries. It also leads to opportunities on process, how you can make the process better. It also talk about the raw materials, how you can use the better raw materials compared to what you are doing right now. Because when we assess the product, then we also assess the raw material, like how, better raw material you can use with respect to the environmental impacts. The supply chain and transport, a carbon footprint study of a product takes the whole supply chain, which start from the raw material, its production, its transportation, its packaging, including the waste, and finally when it leaves the gate. If it is a cradle to gate study, and there is also cradle to grave study, which also include the use phase and end of life. So till end of life, we can calculate the carbon footprint of a product. And as per the latest standard, which is published just now, it's very new standard, it's called ISO 17067. So a company has to do a study of carbon footprint of a product, beginning from the raw material till there is end of life. That means cradle to grave. So it also covers your risk management. It also takes care of your reputation as a brand, as a company making these products. Customers' loyalty, because if the shoppers, they want to have the product which are more greener, which are environmental friendly, then it is quite important that they should get it from you, from your brand. The brand image, and finally the cost. The cost also plays a very important role when we talk about product, because during a product carbon footprint study, we measure the total carbon emission, which is also directly related with the energy consumed in different process, which is also related with raw material, related with packaging, related with waste. So once you make a commitment, or if you get recommendations to how to improve it, then there are definite chances that you can reduce your cost by replacing the raw material, by reducing your packaging or changing your packaging, by your transportation models, or by your production where there's a bottlenecks in the system or there's a leakage. Like if we talk about the usage of diesel, usage of boiler, or some oils you're using. So there are a lot of opportunities when we cover the whole supply chain process in a carbon footprint study. So talking about what is happening in different countries, especially say the European countries, the French government eco-labeling scheme, it already came into existence. It came in 2011, and there was a pilot run which was done by around 168 French retailers, including the 29 food retailers and even the textile companies. So this was piloted till July 2012, and this is already a legislation in France, but so far it is not implemented. So the likelihood of implementation of this legislation is in end of 2013 or early 2014, as per the available information. So if it comes, then every company who is selling a product in the French market, they need to put at least 3 environmental indicators on the product. So it can be a carbon footprint, it can be a water footprint, it can be soil, it can be eutrophication, or any environmental impact which is linked with the life cycle assessment of the product. So if this regulation comes by maybe in 2014 or early, then the other European countries will definitely look into it, and there are quite possibilities they may also follow the suit. So the companies who were in this pilot run were from textile, cosmetics, sports goods, shoes, furnitures. They were the first to undergo this preliminary evaluation for this French government eco-labeling scheme. Evaluation of other sectors happened throughout 2012, and a final report on the environmental experimental program will be submitted to the Parliament in 2013, and a legal framework for environmental labeling in 2014 at the earliest. So there are quite chances that this scheme may come as a regulation in 2014. So this is one one thing on the European side, but even in the US, there is a Sustainable Apparel Coalition. Many of you may be aware of this. It's called SAC, Sustainable Apparel Coalition. And majority of the big retailers are a part of it, are a member to it. And they also came out with their green index. It's called HIG Index. So with HIG Index, it focuses majorly on the environmental issues. So what they will do finally, once it comes into picture, they will give a questionnaire to the companies to fill in on environmental aspect, on social aspect, and then it may be validated by a third-party independent company, whether it is in order or there is something to get it improved. So there is a similar development going on US by Sustainable Apparel Coalition, and even there are a couple of Indian companies like Arvind, Pratibha, and Madura who are a member to Sustainable Apparel Coalition apart from the brands. Who are a member to it, and SGS is also one of the technical committee member to Sustainable Apparel Coalition. So SGS, last 2 years, SGS is very active in this sustainability issues and sustainability initiative. So what SGS did was we came up with our own label, the carbon footprint label for the products, which a company can put on the product as a label, as a hand tag, or they can put on the packaging, they can put on the website. So once we calculate and measure the carbon footprint of a product, a company can use this label with the carbon footprint values. Say it comes out to be say 80 kg CO2 equivalent or 100 kg CO2 equivalent. So we have 3 labels. First is the carbon footprint label. It is given to a company when we calculate the carbon footprint of a product. It can be a kneaded product, it can be a woven product. Then we work with the company. This label is applicable for 1 year, 12 months period. If a company, we not only calculate the carbon footprint value of the product, but also give the recommendation plan how the company can further reduce the carbon footprint of the product. And then if a company does the reduction, then they get a carbon footprint reduction label, which also again you can put on the product. Then finally there's a carbon neutral label, which is again very lucrative to many companies, and I have seen in internet there are companies who claim that they are the first company in the world to have carbon neutral. I saw a company from Sri Lanka selling tea, and they claimed they are the first company in the world to have carbon neutral label. Mark and Spencer again they also had the carbon neutral label for their lingeries, a product made from Mast, Sri Lanka. So the first label talk about transparency. It is like communicating sustainability to your consumers with respect to a label, how a brand's environmental commitment is shown, that SGS has calculated the total greenhouse gases emission over the whole product's life cycle using internationally accepted standard. So we use the standard ISO 1467, which is the latest standard to calculate the product carbon footprint, and our label is registered across the Europe, in US. So if a company uses our label for a product which is sold across Europe, then they can use this label, and there's no, it is well accepted, well recognized. The second label, which talk about the carbon reduction, is a label which shows a company's commitment for reduction. So if a company just goes for carbon footprint calculation or a mapping, but they do not put any emphasis on carbon reduction, then at the end there is no use. It's only a marketing gimmick or marketing strategy of the company. If they really want to do, a reduction in the cost by saving, by reducing their energy, reducing their carbon, then it is very important that they should go for a carbon reduction. The carbon neutral is a completion where once a reduction is done by a company in the second year, or they go for reduction in third year, and after that there is no further possibilities, then they also get a carbon neutral by offsetting the remnant carbon footprint they have. So these carbon footprint are normally offset by buying the carbon credits which are available in the market. So a company can put a tag of carbon neutral which shows a zero carbon product. So you can understand a zero carbon footprint product has a great value. So we have team located in North America, Europe, Asia, and our marks are recognized across Europe, Asian countries, and US. So it's the first global product carbon footprint mark program that we launched. So a benefit to a company, the confidence of the SGS mark. SGS is the leading third-party independent company. in the world. So the mark given by SGS is very well recognized. The ability to use a single mark internationally, a roadmap for carbon reduction, a network of global experts, the incentive for continuous improvement, the product differentiation and premium positioning. So you can also talk to your buyer and say you are the company who is doing a lot of initiative on environmental things with this product carbon footprint, and they may agree for some incentives. A global and trusted visibility of your environmental commitment and achievements. So even just adding here, if you talk about the scene in India, we have voluntary guidelines. It's called National Voluntary Guidelines, NVGs, which talk about the environmental sustainability or carbon footprint as a part of the government's initiative. Currently, the new Companies Act also place environmental sustainability as a part of CSR initiatives. So far, people were donating money and doing these activities under CSR. But with the current Companies Act, as one indicator out of 7, environmental sustainability also has become important factor. Some states like Gujarat, they are also giving incentives to companies who are starting the mega project or those who are starting the innovation project in these states. Say I'm talking about like the state of Gujarat. But again, the industrial policy of Gujarat says that if you are starting up a mega project, then in that case you need to have a great emphasis on environment in terms of calculating the carbon footprint or doing the life cycle assessment. So at the end, your global partner for sustainability with our global network of 75,000 employees across 144 countries worldwide. We are here to help you on the compliance with regulation and anticipated new regulation like the French regulation, which is expected, the consumer and investors' expectations, the brand image improvement, efficiency and money saving if you reduce your energies and carbons, new market opportunities through innovative products. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kumar. It's very quite informative, a broad understanding on the subject we're talking about. Any particular questions or comments?
I have a question. You said you certify products. Now in the garment industry, factories will be doing thousands of products. So how does one go about, having each product individually certified, or is the factory certified to calculate and give a rating on each product? How does that work with SGS, and what do you charge now?
Yeah, actually, your question is very valid. Like in any textile industry, there are thousands of products, thousands of styles. I'm also from a textile background. So what we normally do is we take a product segment. Like if you want to go for a knitted segment, knitted product or a woven product, is generally, say for example, it's a knit company making the knitted garment. So what we do is during our first visit to the company, when we see the whole supply chain or map the whole supply chain, we make a mathematical model. Say they have for example, if it is a knitting unit, then the different process, the garmenting unit, or the different process, there is a dyeing or there is a printing or whatever. So we make a mathematical model for a particular product. So a company making 1,000 products need not to go for every product every time. So once we make a mathematical model, it is only the first time fee or first time work that SGS has to do. And then afterwards, it is only if somebody want to go for a license to have the carbon mark, then is the only license fee which is applicable. So in any study, it is done only one time for one product, and then it is only the mathematical model that follows. That again depend on the company, depend on a different type of product and the different supply chain. If some company has a dyeing plant, a printing plant, a spinning unit, a garmenting unit, then again the man days increases and the cost again depend on that. If it is only a garmenting company, then cost is different. If it is a mix of 3-4 units, then the cost is different. Even if a company is not having a spinning facility, that may be the next question. If a company do not just have a garmenting unit and they are buying fabrics, a printed fabric or a dyed fabric from outside, then in the regulation, in the standard, there is a provision that we can use the secondary data from authorized sources. So if it is say 100% cotton fabric that you have bought from outside, say from China, for example, so we cannot go to China to complete your project, and because the cost would be too high. Or if we are buying yarn from some other sources, then we cannot definitely, we may not go to that particular plant, spinning plant, to calculate the yarn. So there is a provision in the regulation where we can use the authorized data for the carbon footprint calculation of that particular product, which is not available in your company. So our emphasis is to calculate it from your company premises till it is packed and it went out.
So it may not actually cover the accurate.
It cover actual carbon footprint, because the data, say if it is 100% cotton fabric, then there is authorized data for 100% cotton fabric. But if there is a company who make fabric by themselves, then it is more accurate, I would say. So there is some default values which are there in the system. So we use those default values.
Because there are like hundreds of components that also go into a garment.
Absolutely.
And you may not have the values for every component.
We do have in the secondary data. We do have in the secondary data. But if a company authorizes us to go to their subcontractor supply chain, then we can do it. We can calculate it.
Like again, it's a very, very elaborate.
Yeah, that is what, like, textile is a very, very difficult, is a complex product. So definitely, there is some if and buts.
Because there is even embellishment. You can
Yeah,
put
yeah.
embellishments on it. And
Absolutely.
part how it's made, from which factories, I don't think.
Yeah. So across the globe, by all companies, in all countries, this is the process which is being followed. So if a company has all the facilities in-house, or they can give us access to go to those facilities, then we can calculate across the whole supply chain for the company. And if it is not, then the standard says that you can use the secondary data which is authorized.
Also, I have another question for the tags you mentioned. Now, is this like a garment tag at the end, or is it a label that you stitch into the garment? Or?
It can be used as a tag, it can be put as a label, it can be put on the packaging, or in the website, anywhere.
Are there any customers that have authorized you to put that tags right now?
No, actually, for a company certification body, international certification body, we do not need any accreditation for using our label. Yeah.
Brands don't allow you to put anything additional on it. So
Yeah.
any company that's tied up and authorized you that, okay, yes, you can put a SGS label on it.
See, we have done a couple of projects. I cannot name it now, but we have done a couple of projects with some buyers, some global brands. One project was for it's a denim company, it's a denim brand, it's a global denim brand, and they made the brand called is a particular product called low impact denims. It's called LID. So they put that LID tag on the brand, which was done by SGS. So we also have co-authorized some labels which was done in Japan. So there were some brands which accepted, which we go by that. Yeah.
You can name your customers in India.
No, I cannot name it now.
Your customers, like
Yeah.
you had that event in Tirupur.
We did couple of project with the textile companies. As you said, we did one project in Tirupur for a company which was a very integrated company. They had their own spinning, dyeing, printing, garmenting, everything in-house. So we did it, because it is public in SGS website. So its company is called Armstrong Knitting Mills. Yeah, the company name is Armstrong Knitting Mills. And SGS has a website where all the projects are listed, which, when the company authorizes us to put their name, because we also have a website where we put all these sustainability projects. So if the company authorizes us, then we put those projects on our website. If the company says, no, it is confidential, then we don't put it. But like Armstrong, they had authorized us, so we have put their name. Yeah. And then there's a company in Mumbai also where we did. And currently there's a big retail chain, is one of the big retailers in India. And we are doing a project with them on their jackets, their t-shirts, their shoes. So it's one of the big brand, and once they will come out, then they will also put a label which will also name SGS, that this carbon footprint is validated by SGS. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
It's very interesting to know that for the last one, carbon neutral, you can buy carbon credits. Could you elaborate, how exactly it works? How can you buy it? Who is selling it, and what exactly they do? It will be good for all to know.
Yeah.
That you are buying carbon credits.
See, carbon credit are traded in the stock exchange like any shares. Yeah. So any company, it is a totally different topic, but if you ask, then I can spend another 2-3 minutes. So any company, who changes their existing some process or equipment with the with a process which is environmental friendly. Say, like just an example, like if there's a company using a boiler which is based on coal, and they change it with a husk-based boiler which is environmental friendly. So they generally apply for a CDM project. It's called CDM, Clean Development Mechanism. So for a CDM project, they get carbon credits. Like if some company go for solar energy, they take solar or wind power, then they get carbon credit by selling those energies. Like they make electrical energy by solar power or wind power. They make electrical energy. While selling those electrical energies, they get carbon credits. So those carbon credits are traded in the stock exchange, like any shares. It's called CRs. So those CRs are like company is doing something environmental friendly. So if a company has done, say, carbon footprint reduction in the second stage, and they want to go for carbon neutral, so they can offset those carbon footprint by using their CRs or carbon credits. Is that answers your question? Yeah, thank you. Any other question? Sorry? SGS also does CDM projects. Yeah. So you can give me your query, and we have a department who handles this.
I have one small question. If any manufacturer is basically trying to get a carbon footprint, some initiative with carbon footprint, is buyer is going to give you more cost to the government? So these days, this is very pressure to the manufacturer for the cost.
This is a very tricky question, difficult to answer. It's more of one-to-one negotiation with the buyer and how good you are. But definitely, if you see the other angle, because it's not only the cost factor, it is also the environmental factor. And if you see, there's a lot of brands who are doing a lot of new things on environment. Like if you talk about H&M, you talk about IKEA, you talk about Walmart. Everybody is conscious about environmental issues. And they already put in place the systems where they are capturing the carbon. So, see, it already started. So, subsequently with time, like when, like just an example, like when the social audit we talk about, 10 years back nobody talk about social audit, but today everybody talk about social audit. It's like a mandatory. Nobody talk about like if I'm doing, then give me additional cost. So similarly on environmental issues, the same situation is now where we had 10 years back on social audits. So today the buyers have interest on, or they want to reduce their carbon emission because they have pressure from their own governments. If you talk about UK have their, the UK government has policy to reduce the carbon footprint. So they are telling retailers to reduce their carbon footprint. So the retailers like Sainsbury or like M&S, they already started their own initiative by Plan A audits or by reducing carbon footprint of the stores. But again, because if the product which is going into the store has a high carbon footprint or doesn't talk about sustainability, then their whole initiative is gone, whatever they are doing in the store in UK. So ultimately, it will come to the supply chain. But again, yeah, everything has a cost. Absolutely.
Any more questions? I think it's interesting. In fact, your question on the tiers down, gradually it's not just the environmental in every, whether you look at social, whether it's labor issues or environmental issues, this is getting complex. How do you capture the data? How do you capture the complexity? How do you know as a manufacturer where is it coming from, what is coming from? So I think it's increasingly getting complex, but at the same time it's an evolving field, and a lot of interest is being done there. Lots of initiatives is going in terms of understanding this complexity at different levels. So that's important one, and initiatives like these are helping to push thinking forward in this direction. Your question in terms of buyers offering incentives is definitely an issue. Every initiative that buyer expects, there is a cost. Today sustainability, if you're talking about, it has a cost. Now, how do you manage this cost? How do you negotiate? On the one hand, you have a buyer who's expecting you, and at the same time, there's whole purchasing practices and pricing issues are coming to loggerheads. How do you manage that? I'm aware of a campaign happening in European Union itself, which is pushing, for a policy in the government that buyers should not go beyond a particular point of purchasing, that they do. So at different levels, initiatives are happening. But yes, I mean, there's still quite a lot of initiative. But, you know, at the same time, it's important to understand while buyers, on the one hand, buyers are increasingly, because they're sensitive about these issues, they're increasingly going to prefer a supplier who is doing all this. Market overall is moving in that direction. And besides we have local government initiatives and regulations coming, which are going to push us as industry to look at these issues, not just...
Government can do something for the manufacturers to give some incentives, some schemes.
Yeah, exactly. There could be different ways. If government is also expecting their industries to, put their house in order vis-a-vis sustainability, there should be some kind of incentives happening. But it's a debate which is happening. We're still kind of trying to understand this kind of, we have a legislation which has come, which has made the CSR mandatory in a way. But at the same time, it has defined CSR in a particular way. So it's not applicable to everyone. It's applicable to some kind of people, which also means that then CSR is being defined in India in a particular way. Sustainability and other issues go in a different kind of a direction. So this global trading system and sustainability, the way it is emerging and evolving, is an interesting space to watch. We as an industry and as manufacturers and stakeholders perhaps need to look at how we can make the best of this whole thing. While there's a confusion here, while there are other labelings happening. We saw talking about different countries have come up with their own labels and legislation. There's still no global initiative happening, and you have SGS offering. Just for the benefit of the group here, Vinod, if you know of any besides SGS label, any other agencies and organizations involved in labeling of carbon footprints?
Yeah, actually. Not specific to carbon, but if you see, there are around 400 labels which are available in the market. So even SGS has another label which is called Blue Sign certification, which is again for the textile industry. So every label talk about in a different way. Like as I said, like Blue Sign is a label which talk about the organizational improvement. It talk about the carbon emission. It talk about the air emission, water sustainability, and there are a lot of productivity things which it talk about. So specific to carbon, there are very few labels right now in the market. As I said, like the government labels are there, but at the private side, like I cannot see any particular company having a global carbon label. So some companies have label, but they are a mix of like some labels are mix of the restricted substances plus the carbon one. Some they talk about carbon and something else. So this label which talk about the SGS carbon label which talk about specific to carbon is the only label as far as I know in the industry which specifically deal with the carbon issues in the products.
Thank you, Vinod.
So while